Hey guys, so I just wanted to pull together a quick tutorial for you on how to create poses for Baldur's Gate 3 using Blender and then the BG3 Toolkit to import the poses into the game. So the first thing that you're going to need is the Baldur's Gate 3 Toolkit, which you'll be able to find in Steam. You can go to your library and then under here where it says games, you want to make sure that you've got tools selected, and then you should be able to search Baldur's Gate 3 and obviously you've got the game here, but then you'll have the toolkit here, so you want to make sure that you've got that installed and downloaded and ready to go. Of course, the next thing that you'll need is Blender. So you can head to blender.org or you can download it through Steam if you want to. I have Blender 4.5.2, but obviously you could just download the latest version and it should work fine. Sometimes there are little hiccups with the different Blender versions. If you are struggling for any reason, then you might want to give Blender 4.5.2 a try. Okay, then you're going to need this DOS2 Collada exporter, which you can download via GitHub. And then you'll also need this export tool as well. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is download the BG3 IK animation rigs from Nexus. This will give you the rig that you will need to be able to create poses. So we head over to Files, and we are just looking at the body rigs today. So we're going to go to Manual Download and get that downloaded. And once you've got that open, this is what that's going to look like. So this is our body type 2 rig. This is what you'll see as standard when you open up the rigs downloaded straight from Nexus. What you can see here is this is what's called a mesh. So this is the character's actual body itself. Then what we have here is a control rig. So this is what we're going to be using to move the character with inverse kinematics, and that will make more sense in a second when I talk you through how to move this rig. All of the other characters, all of the different body type rigs are up in here. So what we have, we've got our human ones, which are going to be body type 1, 2, 3 and 4. That will work for humans, elves, half-elves, people like that. We've got a tiefling rig, which is basically the same body shape, but it's also got a tail as well. We've got a Githyanki, which is ever so slightly different. We've got Dragonborn, dwarves and gnomes and halflings, which use the same rig. At the moment, everything that's not being used is hidden in the viewport. You can toggle things on and off in the viewport by selecting this little eye symbol. So if we wanted to get rid of the body type 2 character, we can literally just toggle him off. Then we have our body type 1 character. Now if we press the eye symbol here, you'll notice that nothing comes up, so what we want to do is head over to the drop down box. We can turn on her control rig, but again we've still got no body. This one here is the skeleton, so that's going to open up a bunch of lines. This is essentially the skeleton, which is telling the game which bones it needs to move, so that when the pose is imported into the game, it knows what it's doing. That will just confuse things for the time being, so we're just going to keep that one hidden for now. But underneath the skeleton drop-down menu, we have here all of the meshes for our body type 1 character. So we can just unhide all of those, and then you have body type 1 to pose up. So one thing that's really important to note if we're making static poses, the first thing I'm going to do is head down here, which is the playback section. We have a start frame and an end frame. This is only going to be relevant if you are using animations. Because we're just doing a static pose, we want the start frame to be 0 and we want our end frame to be 1. So I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that that says 1. The next thing to note is if you click on the control rig, this is how you're going to move your character. Currently we are in object mode. We don't want to use object mode to do anything with this character. We won't be able to click on any particular control and anything we press is just going to move her in a way that we don't want her to move. So what we want to do is head up here where it says object mode, click the drop down, and we want to go into pose mode. And you'll notice that the controls have all now changed colour. And this is how we edit our poses. So each of these boxes is going to be a different control that operates a different part of the body. So for instance, this is our hand, and that will move the entire arm. This is where inverse kinematics comes in. Without inverse kinematics, you would have to manually move every single individual bone. So there would be, you know, the hand, there would be a forearm bone, there would be an elbow, there'd be an upper arm bone, a shoulder, etc. Because we've got inverse kinematics, we don't have to worry about all of that because Blender will do a lot of that work for us. However, you do still need to be careful because you can, you know, get things like their arms twisting in ways that look very uncomfortable. Or you can, you know, get it to like intersect the body like that, which is obviously not what we want. So we just need to be careful about where we're moving, which is kind of something that you will get used to as you start practicing with the rig. But it should, for the most part, be quite straightforward. To move the arm, you would move the hand. To move the neck and the head, you would move this circle here. To move our legs and feet, we would grab this box here and start moving that around. These circles here operate the knees, so we can like rotate the knees and such by moving that. We have the same thing here but for our elbows, so that would move an elbow backwards and forwards. Then we have this big ring around the center here, which is going to sort of operate the character's torso and move them around. So if you wanted them in like a seated position, you could click and drag this one. And then we also have a few boxes in the middle here, which basically act as a spine, which you can like move backwards and forwards like so. Now, how I am moving these boxes around is with a couple of keyboard shortcuts. To move something or to grab it, we would press G on our keyboard, and that will grab and move it around like so. If we wanted instead to rotate something, we would press R, and that would rotate it around on an axis like so. And to be a little bit more granular, we're working on an axis here, X, Y, Z. So if I were to hit G and then hit X, that is going to move it along the X axis. If I hit G and Y, that's going to move it along the Y axis, which is forward and backwards. And if I hit G and Z, that's going to move it up and down along the Z axis. You do have a little coordinates tab here in case you need to remember sort of which direction you're going to be moving things in. And the same thing works for rotation as well. So if I hit R and X, that's going to rotate along the X axis, which is to say that the X axis runs along the middle, and the wrist here will just rotate sort of around that axis. So it's going to kind of move backwards and forwards like so. If you hit R and Y, that's going to move it along, or rotate it, sorry, along that axis. So it's going to move up and down like so. And if you would press R and Z, that's going to do the same thing around the Z axis. And that will be the same case for all of your bones. So that would be rotate and Y to move it along the Y axis, rotate and X to move it back and forward along the X axis, rotate and Z to move it around the Z axis. And you can just have a little play with how all of these buttons will move your character kind of, you know, from side to side, up and down, different rotations that you can do. You can just experiment with that until you get really comfortable. However, there are certain instances. Let's say if we go down towards our fingers and we click on, say, one of these, like our knuckle, and we hit G, we're going to be able to like super stretch out that limb, which is not what we want. So to move certain things, you only want to hit R to be able to move things around like that instead. But again, that's something that you will just eventually get used to once you go in and start playing with the rigs. And obviously you can ask me any questions if you have them and they come up. One of the most important things to bear in mind with our poses is never, ever, ever, ever to move this outer circle. If we do that, we are basically moving, I guess, the point of origin for the game. It's not going to like be able to compute where the character's standing, and this is where you get things like earrings which float off the body, and little errors like that, because the game doesn't quite know what to do with that. So we're never moving this outer circle. If you want to move a character to be over here, then we move this inner circle. So we need to make sure that we're clicking this, and then we can click G to move a character along the inner circle. Or if, for instance, we wanted the character to lie down, we can press R and X, and we can rotate them to lie down like that. But we just want to make sure that we are never moving this outer circle. And that's basically a breakdown of the rig. So what I'm going to do is quickly get a very, very basic pose up and running so that you can see what that looks like. Okay, so there's a simple pose all set up. She could be waving, or what I'm going to do in a second is set up a very simple high five pose so that you can see another character in action here as well. One thing that I didn't mention before, but it's important to mention now, is that in Blender, the models are flipped or mirrored as to what they are in Baldur's Gate. So at the moment, as we've got her set up now, she is waving with her left hand. When we put her into the game, she is going to be waving instead with her right hand. This entire pose is going to be flipped and mirrored around. Sometimes that's going to be not that important. Like this pose, for instance, doesn't really matter which way she's doing it, but sometimes it might be. So that's just an important thing to bear in mind. Okay, so from here, we are still in pose mode. What that means is if I try to open up, say, our body type 2 character and try to select him, I can't do anything with his character at the moment because we are in pose mode. So we want to opt out of pose mode, we want to go into object mode. And then if you want to make things a little bit easier, you can also hide the control rig on the body type 1 character so that you aren't seeing quite so many lines on the screen at the same time. Then we can select our body type 2 rig, head into pose mode, and essentially do the same thing again. So let me set up a pose real quick. Okay, so if you were doing this properly, obviously you would spend a lot longer trying to make sure that the pose looked really good. But I've gone for a very, very simple high five pose here with our 2 characters. And that's what that looks like. I'm going to now hide our control rigs because we don't need to look at those for a little while. And the first thing I'm going to make sure that I do, this is very, very important, I'll tell you why in a sec, is we want to make sure that we are saving the pose as it is right now. So let me just go ahead and do that, and I'm going to call it high five and save it somewhere where you're going to remember. Now obviously first of all, saving is an important thing that you should do all the time with all your files anyway. But the main reason that saving right now is so important is because our next step is actually going to require us to close the program and reopen it back up again. So we don't want to lose what we've just created here, especially if you spent a really long time crafting the perfect pose. So we want to make sure that that's been saved down somewhere that you're going to find it easily again before we move on to our next step. Now the next step is we want to find our skeleton here and make that visible. So this is the skeleton for our body type 1 character, all set up like this. So we can select it, which means all of the points are going to go orange. We're going to head back into pose mode, and then you'll see that all of the points are green. We want to press A on our keyboard, which is going to select all, so you'll see them all turn blue. Then we want to go to pose. We want to go to animation, go to bake action. We want to make sure that these top 3 here are selected. So only selected bones, visual keyring, and clear constraints. Everything else you can leave just as it is. And then we want to press OK. Head back into object mode, hit File, Export, and then we want to, this is important, we want to export DOS2/BG3 via gltf.gr2. So that's the one the format that we want to save it to. So click that. We want to make sure up here that this says where it says selected bones, we've got that selected here. We want to name this something that we're going to remember. So this is high 5, but this is specifically the body type 1 version of this pose. So I'm going to save it as body type 1. And then after the point, so the extension, we want to change that from blend to GR2. And it's really, really important that the G and the R are capitalized here because it is case sensitive. So we've got high 5 at body type 1.gr2. And then we just press export and save that again somewhere where you're easily going to be able to find it. So export. Then we want to, you can either close the blend file and reopen it, or we can go to File, Open Recent, and we want to open our high 5 again. Make sure that you don't save, and that's just going to reopen the file as it was before we did all of those actions. So then we want to find our body type 2 skeleton, and we do the exact same process again. So object mode, so we want to select pose mode, hit A on our keyboard to select all, pose, animation, bake action. Make sure the top 3 are selected, press OK, back into object mode, export, check selected objects, want to name it high 5 body type 2, and then after the dot we're going to put GR2 in capitals and export. And that is everything that you need to do in Blender. So we're going to move over into the toolkit now. Okay, so when you first open up the toolkit, you probably won't have these recent projects here. These are just things that I've been working on lately. But what you'll see is this window, and you can select Create to make a new project. And you click on that. And then here we'll have this create new project section. We want to give it a name. So for this one, I'm going to call it high 5 test. And then we're going to press create. We just give the toolkit a few seconds to figure out what it wants to do. And then when it loads, it's going to throw up this other window, which will ask you if you want to open up a level. For the pose mod, we don't need this, so we can literally just press cancel. And then what we'll do is we head up to create and view resources, which is this little symbol here. Obviously there's a big list here. It looks a little bit intimidating, but don't worry, it's not too bad. Our mod is this one, which is highlighted in blue, so high 5 test. If we open that, at the moment we don't have anything in our mod. It's a completely blank slate. So I'm going to head back into all, and then I can also expand this, and this is the viewport, so you can see what you have selected. At the moment, what we want to do is search for a base file. Now, because we're working with body type 1, what we're going to search for in here is hum, as in human, underscore, F, as in female, underscore, base. And what we need to find is in here, we've obviously got quite a few that have come up, but we want the animation set resource, this one here. So we can click on that. There'll be nothing in the viewfinder here because this base asset doesn't have anything over here for you to see. We can right click on this and we want to press override in the active mod. It'll ask you if you are sure you want to override, you press yes. Do you want to keep the same package structure? You can press yes. So that has now overridden it. You'll know that it's been successful if it has these 3 zeros after it. And you can also head into our mod and you'll see the base up here. If for some reason you don't see something up here, you might need to just clear the filter and then you should see the base in your mod. We're going to head back into all and we're going to search hum underscore m underscore base, and then same again, we are looking for our human bases and we're looking for the animation set resource, this one. Same again, right click, override in the active mod, yes, yes. And then we can head and check that it's worked. It has. Looks like our female one has disappeared, but that's just because we've got the filter on. So if we clear the text filter, then we have both our male and female bases in our mod. We can head back into all. If you're working with another body type, then it will be a different base. Dwarves will be DWR F base. So it'll be these ones. We've got Dragonborn, which is DGB. This one here. What else have we got? We've got gnomes. We've got halflings. And that is basically it. The human will cover humans, elves, half-elves, tieflings, drow, githyanki, and I think then that's everyone in the game. So we can clear the filter. The next thing we want to do is we want to look for an animation that is already in the game. So the one that I always search for is PM underscore arms out. So we can click here on the hum F rig, human female rig, PM arms out. And then you will see here in the viewport this animation, which is basically just a bunch of static poses that the game has associated with PM arms out. You will see the same for the human male. For us, we're going to need the human female rig. So we can right click on that and then we're going to press create new from selected. We've got this little pop-up window here now. We're going to click this top one, and in the drop down we're going to click the bottom option right here. And then we can rename it. Now obviously you can name it basically whatever you want. I tried to name it something that's going to be super obvious what it is. So for me, I always put Ardicarius in the name. I'm going to put an underscore. I'm going to call it high 5 test underscore BT1, body type 1. I am then going to also copy that name, press OK. Go back to all. find the human male rig, create new from selected, same window again, you want to press the bottom one. I'm going to paste what we just copied and then just change that to body type 2 because it's the same pose. I'm going to press OK. I'm going to clear the filter and head into our mod, and then what we'll have is our body type 1 animation, our body type 2 animation, and then our bases up here. So from there, what we want to do is open this up, which is our UUID object editor, and head down here to what we've called our mod. So high 5 test, click the drop down. We want to find animation, click the plus button, and we want to click on short names. Then in the drop down, double click on short names to open up our short names table. So under name, we want to name it the same thing that we just named it before. So I'm going to copy or paste that into there. So it'll be Ardicarius high 5 test BT1. Press enter. That's going to generate a UUID. And then we can do the same again, body type 2, press enter, and that will generate another UUID. Under category, we want to type photo mode. That's all we need to do in here, so we press save, but we need to keep it open because we'll need that again in a second. I'm going to scroll down then to photo mode, click on the plus, click on emote poses, drop that down, double click on emote poses. For the name, we are going to use the exact same name again, hit enter, and the same again, but for body type 2. We've then got a UUID generated for us here. Our display name is what's going to show up in photo mode. So I would call this high 5 body type 1. High 5 body type 2. You can be as creative as you want, but again, I like to just keep things nice and straightforward. Under here, under short name, what we're going to do is go back to our short names table, and we are going to copy the UUID for the body type 1 that we created, head back over to emote poses, and paste that in under the body type 1 short name table there. Do the same again for the body type 2, copy and paste the short name. And then under the timing column, we want to just add a 0 because they're static poses. We don't have frames going on in this particular mod. Hit the save button. We don't need to include anything in this exclude tags column. Again, under photo mode, we want to hit the plus button and we want to hit emote collections. Double click that to open it. We want to name our collection something, so I would go again Ardicarius and high 5 test. That will generate another UUID. You can create a display name here, so that would be high 5. And then we can add a pose, all of our poses that we want to add to this mod under this pose list category. So we can scroll all the way down. Any poses that you've just added should be at the bottom, so you don't need to like manually go through all of these. And we're just going to double click those to add them to our list. And we don't need to worry about animations list here. So we press save. That's everything we need to do in the object editor, so we can close that down. Then what we need to do is double click our human female base. And we'll get this window pop up right here. Now we want to scroll down to where it says photo mode, hit the drop down, and again scroll right the way down to the bottom of this list, and you should find our poses that we've entered in here. So I'm gonna click on that. Obviously there's an absolutely huge list here, but we don't need to hunt for it in there. We can literally just type in high 5. This is the body type 1 column. So we can type in, we can click on the body type 1 pose. And then for body type 2, we click on body type 2. Then we press apply and OK. And then we do the exact same thing again for our human male base as well. Open that up. Head down to where it says photo mode, click the drop down. Scroll right the way down to the bottom. And it will remember the last thing that you search for in here as well, so that's nice and intuitive. We want to click body type 1 for the body type 1 pose and body type 2 for the body type 2 pose. Press apply and OK. Now the next thing we want to do is tell the toolkit and the game that this is not the pose that we want to see for our high five test. We want to replace that. So what we want to do is, if we pull out this window so that we can see a little better, I'm going to scroll down here until we see source file. I'm going to hit the 3 dots and that will open up the folder structure for where this pose is saved. I'm going to copy that and open that up into a file browser. At the moment, this high five test is this animation right here. What we want to do instead is copy the name, open up the folder that we've saved the pose to, the one that we exported out of Blender earlier, and I have it right here, this high five body type 1. So I'm going to rename that to the thing that we just copied, and then we're going to drag and drop that pose into this folder and press to replace the file in the destination. Then you can do the same thing for the male pose, so we can just hit a few folders back. So we go to humans, male rig. We're going to copy the name of this, head back to our other pose, rename it, drag and drop, and yes, replace the file in the destination. Now, to make it work, we unfortunately need to close the toolkit back down and reopen it again. So I'm going to hit File, Save All, and then File, Exit. Okay, so when the toolkit opens back up again, we want to open up our high five test mod. Open up our Create and View Resources tab. Make our viewport a little wider again, and then we can head straight to our high five test mod right here. And our first moment of truth is if we click high five test BT1, there we go, we see our pose that we created. Again, like I said, it's going to be mirrored to what we created in Blender, but she's there. She looks good. And then we should have the same again in BT2. Yeah, so there we go. Once we have that, we can click on Project Settings, and then we can add an author name, we can add a mod description, and we can add a photo if we want to as well, although it's not, it says it's mandatory, it isn't, you don't have to. And then we want to hit Publish Local, and that will build the mod, and then it will open up into your mods folder, so you can share that pack with whoever you like. However, before we share it with anyone, what we want to do is make sure it works in the game. I am going to open up our BG3 mod manager. This is a crucial step. When you export something from the toolkit, it kind of resets your load order. I mean, it's still here at the moment, but these won't actually be active if you go into the game. You want to make sure that you're hitting save and exporting the load order again to make sure it's in the game. but also you will probably need to find, yes, so our high five test is currently inactive. So I am going to drag and drop that into here, save, export, and close that, and then I'm going to open up the game. Okay then, so we have 2 characters in the game. I'm going to head into photo mode, and for this I'm going to use the quick small animation thingy to select the pose, because of course this won't be in the compatibility patch because we're just testing it out. So you will need to get familiar with QSAT and Lighty Lights, or QSAT in particular. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on QSAT in our photo mode and set Gale up with reserve slot 1. I'm going to set Jahira up with QSAT reserve slot 2. What I'm going to do is search in here for high five, because that's what we named it. There we go. Reserve slot 1 is Gale, so it's body type 2. There he is. And then reserve slot 2 is Jahira, so it's body type 1. And for easy positioning in Lighty Lights, obviously you can move the characters around as you normally would, but it can take a little while to line them up properly like that, so I like to use Lighty Lights. We're going to head into this PM tab. I'm going to set the dummy controls onto Jahira. I'm going to save Jahira's coordinates and position. Then I'm going to select Gale and literally just click on Jahira there. And the pose should line up. And it looks like they're high-fiving or dancing with each other, something like that. Give him a little smile. There we go. And that is your pose in the game. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. Feel free to ask me any questions if you have any. I'll be happy to answer them for you. And yeah, enjoy!